Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer. This video is about something different. It's not a book review. On my channel, or last year on my channel, every 3 months I talked about my favourite covers. In this video, I'm going to talk about something different. Favourite characters. I'm going to talk about my favourite characters that I read in books for the first 3 months of this year, from January, February and March. Every 3 months, I'll do another video, and then end of the year, I'll talk about my favourite characters for the whole year. I'm not sure if I'll give a favourite character overall, or if I'll just give a bunch of characters that were my favourites. Not sure about that yet, haven't decided, because I don't know if over a whole year of reading, I can just single out one character as my favourite. Not sure if I can do that. For different genres, I have different favourite characters, and I don't know if I can, just pick out one character from all the books I read and say that's my favourite. It'd be hard, I think. So at the moment, I'm just thinking about a favourite kind of bunch of characters. And let's see how that goes. But anyway, in this video, it's going to be about my favourite characters from books I read in January, February and March of this year. My first character or characters, because there's 3 of them, are Judith Potts, Susie and Bex. I first met them in The Marlowe Murder Club, written by Robert Thorogood. Judith Potts, of course, is my favourite of the 3. She seems to be the main character out of the 3 main characters in this book series anyway. But she's a great character. But all 3 are great in their own right. They're all very different. And I like in this book and this series how they're all so different. There's 3 main characters, different ages, different backgrounds, different personalities. All their interactions, the way they speak, carry themselves, their reactions, everything suits them. And they're all very different. I like everything about them, each of them. They have little quirks, but their quirks aren't too quirky. They don't overpower the character or the stories. The things I like are little subtle things. Just little things that are, short descriptive things, maybe a few words in a sentence pop up here and there. They round out the characters nicely, and it's those things that I think make these characters stand out. For example, Judith Potts. In the 2 books so far I've read in this series, she always drinks scotch. Different times of the day she'll have a glass of scotch, and she calls it different things. It'll be her thinking scotch. It'll be her healthy scotch. Be different things, different names because of the situation, and it just makes her character feel a bit unique because of that. I've not seen other characters call it that in a book before. Also, when she talks to people, she'll have a handbag with her. She'll pop out a tin of travel sweets. And travel sweets, if you don't know, the little tins of like hard-boiled candy. And the little candies sit in, I think it's like icing sugar or something, some sort of flour substance or flour-like substance anyway. And they sit there, I think, to preserve the flavour, preserve the sweets more in this tin. And essentially she pops that tin, pops it open, and offers a sweet to people she talks to. And what it does interrupts the flow of conversation, and she kind of does it in a way to get her own kind of 2 cents into a conversation and drive it to her conclusion that she wants. I like the way that happens in the stories. There's little quirks like that about characters in this book especially, make these characters stand out. Now Susie also stands out because I like the fact she's a dog walker in this village. She's a single mum, but she also just has a great personality. She's very strong, very determined, so sure of herself. The way she's described in this story is brilliant. Her personality is brilliant, and in the second book, she has a different element where she's still dog walking, but she's also on community radio. Becomes like a celebrity in a local town because of that. And I like that growth in this character in the second book of the series. So far I've read 2 books in the series, and I like all the character growth that happens in those 2 books. And Bex as a character, she's a vicar's wife. She's so strong as a personality. As a character, I like that inside she has this kind of inner turmoil about being the perfect wife, but also wanting to be very independent, doing her own thing. She's always battling with those 2 thoughts, the 2 sides to herself in the series. It comes out so cleverly in these books. It makes her so real as a character because everybody has doubts about what they should be doing. I think they do anyway. Everybody wants to be themselves, but they also have, different people relying on them for different things. So I think that plays out in this character Bex very well in these books. So all three characters in these books are great characters in my view. But I think Judith Potts is my favourite out of the three. The second character I want to mention is a character called Louise Jane. And in these 3 months, I read about her in a book called The Stranger in the Library, written by Eva Gates. It's a long-running cozy mystery series, 11 books so far. The series is called the Lighthouse Library Mystery Series. And for me, Louise Jane is a great character. She's probably almost my favourite character in cozy mysteries. In this series, she's not the protagonist, but she stands out so well in this series because of who she is as a personality and what she does. I just like that she's a bit quirky, not quirky awkward, but quirky good. And her quirkiness comes from her belief in the paranormal, her belief that ghosts influence crimes, or you can get clues or solve mysteries by talking to spirits and ghosts, that sort of thing. And in many books in this series, she wants to hold a seance. And I think in one book she even does. Maybe even more than one, I can't recall. But at least one book in this series, she does hold a seance. And it kind of spooks out other characters in the book. I just like her personality. I like just the way she carries herself. I like there's big moments in this series for her that stand out in my mind so clearly even now. Even though those moments may happen in like book 3 or book 4 in the series, they still stand out in my mind because of the character. And anything she does just suits her because of her quirkiness, she's a bit outlandish as well. The author can write different things for her than other characters in the series. And I like that because it gives the series more colour. So for me, great character in a great series. I would like a series based on Louise Jane by herself. I think there should be. She deserves it, I think. She's a great character. She's the first character that comes into my mind whenever I think about this series or I see a new book in this series or somebody mentions it. Louise Jane is the first character that pops into my head. I want to mention Pamela, who was a character I met in a book called Bright Young Women. This book was very interesting and Pamela was a standout character for me. In this book, Pamela was in the past narrative, and I think that was based in the 70s from memory. And she's interesting because she's a character that fights against the norms of society at that time. She's in college, so college age, and she's like a witness to a terrible crime, a survivor of a terrible crime. But because she's a female, because of the time period, she's not believed, she's not trusted. People ask her things like the police ask her things and she says things, but it's like they don't believe her. They don't believe she knows her own mind. They don't believe she's strong enough to be a good witness. They think because she's a woman, she's not a good witness. She's too emotional or she's too frightened. She can't handle the things that happen to her that she's a witness to. But she's not like that. As a character, she's strong. As a character, she knows her own mind. She's that generation of women who are forging ahead and they want to be seen, want to be noticed. They want to be treated as equals. And she's fighting that in this book. Despite being a surviving witness to a horrific crime that happens, she's also fighting against the societal norms. So as a character, she stands out because of that. And I just think as a character, she's constructed so well, so cleverly and very carefully. And I just like the way she thinks. I like the way she carries herself. I like what she says. Everything about her makes sense. Everything about her feels real. Her character for me is so strong in this book. For me, when I read this book, I just wanted it all to be about the past and her as the main character. She was the strongest character in the book. Without her written like that, I don't think those past narrative scenes would have worked. And I just wanted a book about her. So a great character. She stands out so strongly in my mind. And if anybody mentions this book, Pamela is the first character I think of. I want to talk about Amon Gamache. He's a police investigator, and I first met him in a book called Still Life, written by Louise Penny. And in this book, he's the protagonist. And since the first book, I've also read the second book, but I read the second book in April, so I can't talk about really that as a character-wise for this video. What stands out about him is that he's a protagonist in a mystery, and a mystery series. It is quite a long-running series. But as a protagonist, he's different. In many mystery series, It just seems like the main character is all about action, all about charging off into scenes, putting themselves in danger, because, authors are doing that to drive the plot forward, to drag the reader along, to make it fast-paced. But in this book, the character is all about observing and thinking. It's so different. It's so refreshing, especially when so many mysteries are about action, fast-paced, go, go, go all the time, danger, bigger the danger, the better, all that sort of thing. This book and this character is not like that, and I like that. He's thinking about clues, he's observing people, talking to them. There are just scenes about him thinking, walking and thinking, pondering, all the things he's learnt so far, thinking about his life as well, his history, all that goes on in his mind, in his point of view. And he's so different from other investigating protagonists in mystery series. Doesn't have kind of destructive life. There are so many mystery series where the protagonist has a destructive life. Either something in the past or something they're doing now is self-destructive. But this character, Amon, does not have that. So I like that as well. Very refreshing for those two reasons. And I just found him very captivating as a character, very engaging. And I found the way he goes about things in the book, the way it's written, the thinking and then acting, the not putting himself in danger for, just for the reason of putting himself in danger. It didn't happen like that in the book. So refreshing as a character. I got a feeling it's going to be the same in all the books in this series. I hope it is anyway, because it'd be nice to go to a series sometimes where it's not about acting first and thinking later. It'd be nice to have this character remain the same, be consistent and be so different and unique. So again, I want to talk about 3 characters from the one book who I met in The Postscript Murders, written by Ali Griffiths. The 3 characters are Edwin, Natalka, and Benedict. They're all very different characters, completely different from each other, but they're all brilliant characters. They are so good, so well written, so different, but they all feel so real. So, Edwin, I think he's in his 80s, and he's retired, of course, and he used to work for the BBC. And now he's living in like an apartment building. And in this apartment building, I think there are a lot of retired people there, a lot of elderly people. He's very clever, very clued in. What I like about him as well is he likes technology. He's not afraid of it. He likes trying new gadgets, trying new things to a certain degree, but he's not afraid of it, and he likes being involved. He just likes, likes talking to people, meeting people. He likes, getting there and getting kind of his hands dirty in that way. Natalka is so interesting in this book. Originally from the Ukraine, she was a student in the UK. She married to get a visa. She's divorced now, so she's single. But she's so clever, so smart, almost brilliant at maths and things like that in this book. She's determined. She wants to strive and get ahead. She's also curious. She likes talking to people as well. I think that all the characters have that in common, these 3 characters. And she likes being, curious and getting involved and kind of investigating when things don't make sense. And that's kind of how all these characters meet, because they all get involved in an investigation of sorts. And when I met them in the book, even though it's not a cozy mystery, felt almost like a cozy mystery because of that. But anyway, the 3rd character, Benedict. So different from Edwin and Natalka. Benedict was an ex-monk, and now he runs a coffee shack. It's just so unique in my view, this ex-monk character that now runs a small coffee shack business. Man, I've not read a book where a character does that. It's unique as a character, works so well in this book, and works so well with Edwin and Natalka. I don't know how the 3 of them work so well together. They're all so different, but they work brilliantly together. And Benedict as a character, again, he's curious. He wants to investigate things he doesn't understand. He comes across as very studious. He's a bit of a thinker. He likes to sit back and think. Doesn't like to act. So out of the 3, Natalka likes action more. Edwin probably in between, and Benedict is more of the thinker. But they all work well together. They interact well. They just combine so cleverly in the book. They feel like they've known each other for years. When they first meet, you think it's old friends meeting again. And they soon become old friends to the reader. And I just like all those three characters so much. They're written perfectly. They all feel real. They all feel unique and different. They're all consistent in the story. I just like them all. And I kind of hope that these three characters are in a long-running series by themselves. I want them all to have a series together for many books to come. That's my one wish with these three characters. So now for a character that feels completely different to every character I've mentioned so far in this video. A character called Carter, who I met in a book called The Drift, written by C.J. Tudor. This character is brilliant in my view because he's very complex and very surprising. He's got this past that's hidden, that could be sinister, we don't know, and we learn about his past as the book progresses. But we learn a lot about him as a character as well in the present day. And we learn how his past influences his present. And it all feels real. He's so mysterious as a character. There's things to him that make you wonder straight away. There's doubt about him. You're curious about his history. You're curious why he does things now the way he does. You're curious about his fears. He's got a way of looking at other characters in this book, looking at the world around him. And when he looks at other characters, it's like he can drill into who those characters are, into their inner core, their inner self. That was curious in the book. Of course, all these characters I'm talking about are good characters because they're written to be like that in the story and have those traits. I'm not inventing things about the characters and what I think about them, but they're things that I picked up from the books I enjoyed a lot. And with Carter, I enjoyed his whole personality. I enjoyed his whole development. I enjoyed that mystery about him. I enjoyed the learning about him as we progress. And those twists and turns in his history, those things that surprised me, just made me engage with him even more in the story. So as characters go, he's amazing in my view. He suited the book so well because the book he's in is all about suspense and mystery and tension. And he generates that so much in the story, so much in his point of view that builds up those feelings in the story because of him. So for all those reasons, standout character in my view in a standout book because the book was brilliant as well. The last characters I want to mention are again three characters from the one book. And the book is called Bookshops and Bone Dust, written by Travis Baldree. And the characters are Fern, Pot Roast, and Satchel. Unusual names maybe, unusual characters definitely, but great characters in a book. It was like a cozy fantasy book. It was a great read. So Fern is a species called ratkin, stands about 3 feet high, a great character, owns a bookstore and is a potty mouth, swearing in the book because of this character. Pot Roast is Fern's pet, half owl and half dog I think in the story, but a great character, great, emotion behind that pet character, great personality, a little bit quirky but very fun, and great interactions between Fern and her pet called Pot Roast. And Satchel is a character that's basically a bunch of bones that comes to life through necromancy. But Satchel stands out because as a character, his biggest quirk is he loves cleaning and organising and tidying. He does that so much in the bookstore. But all three characters are brilliant. All three characters stand out. Great character development, great personalities. They all feel real despite them being in a fantasy book. They all feel real. They all suit that fantasy world so well. And all their personalities are different. I especially like Fern. Fern for me in this book was my favourite character. I just love the fact that she owns a bookstore and she's a potty mouth and she's quick to anger as well. And I don't really like angry people in real life, but those reactions from Fern in this book were perfect. She just made the book for me. Her and the main character were really good, but out of all the characters, the main character, even though was very good in the story, wasn't one of my favourite characters. But I would just love a book about Fern and her bookstore. Give me Fern, Pot Roast, the bookstore, and possibly Satchel as well, and it'd be brilliant for me. Even make it a series, I don't care. I'd read every book with those three characters. There you have my favourite characters for books I read in January, February and March. Of course, I read more books in those 3 months, but as I went through the list of those books, those characters that I mentioned in the video came to mind very strongly. All great characters for different reasons and in different types of books, but all standout characters and characters I still think about now. So when those books are mentioned, they're the first characters that come to mind for me. And you can't ask more than that from characters. If a character sticks in your mind, or when a book's mentioned and that character is in your mind straight away, and you can't help thinking about that character from that point on during the day, that's a sign of a great character. On my channel, I review books from all different genres. Check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.